Start by cutting your fabric and fusible fleece to your desired size. I worked with 16 by 14 sheets, but you can get away with 10 by 14 pieces if your makeup brushes aren't very long. The two pieces of fabric of the same color or pattern are going to become the front and back of your storage roll, and the third sheet will be used to create the pockets for your brushes. Place your fusible fleece adhesive side up on your ironing board and lay one of the two matching pieces of fabric on top of it. Make sure the pretty side is facing up. Follow the directions for the fleece and use your iron to activate the adhesive. Once they've cooled, both pieces should be fused together. Set them aside. Grab the sheet of fabric you're using for your roll's pockets and fold it in half horizontally. Use the iron to press the fold and then pin the top all the way across. With your sewing machine, stitch across the top of the folded fabric approximately 1/4 of an inch down. To ensure everything stays in place, start end-end with a back stitch. Bring the stitched piece back to your ironing board, open up each end, and then flatten everything so the stitched seam is sitting across the middle. Use the iron to press down the seam as well as the top and bottom folds. Place the pressed pocket piece on top of the sheet of fabric that isn't fused to the fleece. Leave approximately 1/2 inch of the unfused fabric exposed at the bottom, and make sure the stitched seam of the folded piece is facing down. Pin the two pieces of fabric together and then stitch down one side, across the bottom, and then up the other side. Leave the top section unstitched so you can slip your brushes into it later. Lay out the sheet of fabric that's fused to the fleece, pretty side up, and place the pocket sheet on top of it, pretty side down. Pull up the left side of the top piece, find the middle of the bottom sheet, and pin 2 strips of layered ribbon to the edge. To keep the ribbon out of the way while you stitch, roll it up and use a safety pin to keep it together. Put the left side of the top piece of fabric back down. Pin around each edge of both sheets and make a mental note to not stitch all the way across the top section. You're going to be flipping the fabric right side out, and you'll need a small opening to make that happen. With a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, stitch across the far right side of the top edge, continue down the right, move all the way along the bottom, back up the left, and then across the far left side of the top edge. Remember, the middle section of the top edge needs to be left unstitched. Grab a pair of scissors and cut off the 4 corners of your stitched rectangle. This will make it easier to achieve crisp, clean corners during the next step. Stick your hand through the unstitched opening and turn your piece right side out. If you want, you can run the iron over it to get rid of any unwanted creases or wrinkles. When you're happy with the way everything looks, pin the opening shut and then stitch a final border around the entire piece. Lay out your makeup brushes across the front pocket and use pins to mark each section. Bring the piece over to your sewing machine and create a seam for each mark, starting and ending with a backstitch. Now your pocket has individual sections perfectly sized for each brush. Trim any excess threads, put the brushes in the appropriate places, and roll them up before tying a bow with the 2 strips of ribbon.